My name's Jeremy Brooks. I'm a senior systems engineer with Platform9 Systems. And today we're here to talk about one control plane to rule them all. So just a little bit of background about Platform9. We were founded in 2013 by 4 ex-VMware engineers, very, very early VMware engineers. We've had global traction since about 2015. And we've been recognized as a leader in SaaS managed infrastructure. And if you were here last year and you heard about Platform9, you would have heard us described as a SaaS managed OpenStack. We're changing that game a little bit, and we're becoming, as the title stated, one control plane to rule them all. We are a open source cloud framework as a service provider. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we kind of dive in here. So everybody has a different cloud journey. And everybody's journey is a little bit different. But what Platform9 is here to tell you about is how you can do that with a single click and how we can help you move up that food chain, whether you're talking infrastructure as a service, whether you're talking platform as a service based on some sort of container framework and the ability to leverage hybrid cloud. Platform9 is here to help you move up that stack at your own rate and in easy managed fashion. So why Platform9 and what makes us so unique? Platform9 has what we like to call separation of church and state from the control plane and data plane in terms of your cloud frameworks. So if you're talking OpenStack, we're going to keep your data inside your 4 walls in your data center, protected by your own security. And we're going to take the burden of managing that, pull it out, give you a cloud controller, manage the uptime, SLAs, and do support around that entire OpenStack stack. Now, the game changer this year that we've come out with is we've announced managed Kubernetes as well. So from that perspective, we're pulling Kubernetes up at the same level. Kubernetes gives you that capability to go multi-cloud, hybrid cloud. It doesn't matter where you deploy. And for Platform9, we don't care what your underlying hardware is. That can be virtual compute in your own data center, bare metal compute in your own data center, can be virtual compute from somewhere like Amazon. We don't care. We will deploy containers and manage that Kubernetes service for you wherever you want to put it. So we're starting with 2 leading frameworks today. Like I said, last year we were only OpenStack. We've announced Kubernetes this year in the July timeframe. And if you pay attention, if you guys are familiar, OpenStack Summit is actually happening right now this week in Barcelona. If you guys want to tune in at midnight tonight Central Time, Platform9 is going to be having a big announcement in terms of where we're going next. Unfortunately, I can't share that with you right now because I'm embargoed for another 12 hours or so until that actually happens. But we do all of this in a SaaS managed framework, which means that you can deploy on-prem and you no longer have to go through the headaches of upgrading, of maintenance, of caring about that higher level cloud framework. We're going to take care of that for you. We have 24/7 support, proactive SLAs, so you're going to be notified if you have an issue deploying a virtual machine. You're going to be notified if a container fails. We're going to do that ahead of time for you and then work with you to resolve that issue. So that's a little bit about Platform9. When we start talking about one cloud controller to rule them all, we're going to wrap all of this up for you in a single pane of glass, giving you the capability to manage both, one pane of glass, and with the same simple rollout framework for all of your infrastructure. So we talked a little bit about this. I don't have 6 PhDs. This was actually a quote from the OpenStack Summit 2 years ago. OpenStack's great, but I don't have 6 PhDs on site to go ahead and manage that infrastructure. If you guys have ever been through a deployment, it can take weeks, maybe months, and that weeks is maybe you're paying a managed service to go and or a service provider to go and do that for you. Platform9, we have stood up POC environments for customers in as little as an hour on the phone remotely. If you bring the hardware, we can help you get stood up. On VMware, it takes 15 minutes to half an hour. On KVM, it may take an hour. And that's all based on your understanding of your underlying network and then how easy Platform9 makes it to deploy for you. So we're going to take that initial deployment out of your hands, and then we're also going to handle the upgrades. So we do yearly upgrades on the OpenStack front. So we are Liberty today. We will be going to Newton in the April timeframe. Newton is actually getting released and announced live this week. And we like to give it 6 months to stabilize and bake before we go to our customers. And that's an in-place upgrade with no downtime to your workloads. Similarly, on the Kubernetes front, we are about to roll out our 1.4 update to Kubernetes, which will be done in the next month or so timeframe. And same concept, we're going to handle that for you. Your workloads are going to continue running in your data center, and you're going to have an in-place upgrade from your controller standpoint. So, how do we do it? I'm going to touch on both sides of the control plane and how we actually manage it. And first, we're going to hit on the OpenStack side. Platform9 gives you a multi-region federated authentication source across multiple types of hypervisors. So on OpenStack, we'll support both VMware and KVM, and we support both greenfield and brownfield environments. So we do this in a couple of ways. I mentioned our separation of church and state from the controller and the data plane. And the way we manage to do that is wrapping the OpenStack services into a cloud controller. We have a number of the standard core OpenStack services. So Cinder, Glance, Nova, Neutron, Murano, Heat. And I'm sure I'm missing one as I run through those, Keystone and Ceilometer. Wrapped in cloud controllers in a master-slave relationship throughout your regions. We have those working through a single federated Keystone instance where we can support any type of SAML SSO authentication or LDAP or ADFS, Active Directory with ADFS if you're interested. So the secret sauce behind Platform9 is the communications layer between your on-prem infrastructure and the cloud controller. Platform9 only requires outbound 443 access, SSL access from your data center. And we're going to negotiate a SSL tunnel with the controller. And through our unique messaging system, we're actually able to reduce traffic. On our current numbers, we're showing about a 50% reduction in traffic between a endpoint node and a control node in an OpenStack environment. So what that does for you, it means that you can have all of this inside your data center. The only stuff going outside is metadata about that infrastructure. So I'm going to have a UUID about a hypervisor. I'm going to have a UUID for a virtual machine. All of your private data is residing within your four walls. So each of these services, depending on which side of the table you're falling on, VMware or KVM, is authorized in a little bit different way. On VMware, you're going to deploy an OVA to your virtual center that you're authorizing. And with 3 quick questions, do you have a proxy? What are the credentials to your vCenter? And how am I getting an IP address? That is going to come up. You're going to authorize which data stores and clusters you want Platform9 to manage. And then you're going to say, I want my Glance endpoint to store images on this data store. Once that's done, Platform9 is going to go out and discover all of the virtual machines that you have in that environment, bring them in as instances in OpenStack, identify all the networks you have set up in vCenter already, pull those in as usable networks, and identify all the vSphere templates that you have out there today, and pull them in as usable OpenStack images. And then depending on the size of your environment, that can take 5 minutes, that can take half an hour if you've got a ton of virtual machines running out there. But that's it, you're up, you're running, you have a fully functional OpenStack environment with the fully supported OpenStack APIs for each of the services we provide in about 15 minutes. On the KVM side, you're going to actually do this on a per node basis. You're going to run a self-extracting installer on that host. It's going to check in and you're going to authorize it with a role. Do you want to make it a hypervisor, a network node, a block storage node, or an image library? And each of those are going to correspond to a OpenStack project. So once you actually do that, it's going to pull down a couple packages host side tied to the role you've authorized it for. So if it's a hypervisor, it's going to make sure you have KVM installed, you have libvirt available. If you're running Glance, it's going to actually host that Glance endpoint inside your data center, so you're not uploading images to the cloud and pulling them back down, wasting all of your network bandwidth. So architecting a cloud is now done in a matter of minutes rather than months. And to put this all together, we are tying your regions together, and then on top of all of these, putting this 24/7 SLA and monitoring and management in place where you'll get all of those upgrades, all the support you could want, as well as proactive support. So we're actively monitoring your environments for failures. Most of the time, we end up notifying our customers before they even notice a failure, and then working with them to fix that failure if it's inside the data center, or correcting it in a self-healing fashion in the cloud controller. So I wanted this to be a little interactive. Are there any questions on how we separate OpenStack today? Awesome. So how many of you guys are familiar with OpenStack? And how many of you actually run OpenStack today? And what do you actually run? Which version? On Liberty today? And how long did it take you to actually stand up? And exactly.
We realized we probably needed 4 or 5 engineers minimum internal OpenStack. We did keep our OpenStack environment internally in more of a dev environment, but it is extensive.
Exactly. So I mentioned each of our engineers were early VMware engineers, each of our co-founders. They worked on the VMware vCloud Director product and noticed a large gap as you moved into the managed space. And that's really what kind of drove them to found this company, is we want the capability for private clouds to be easy, and we want to give it to our end users in a manageable fashion. You shouldn't have to go out and hire a large number of resources to manage your internal cloud environment along with your infrastructure, along with building all of the tools and automation to make that flow. Because one of the things we'll touch on at the end here is with Platform9 in that single control plane, we're going to give you the building blocks for a DevOps environment right out of the box. And you can, whether that be OpenStack, whether that be Kubernetes, all of the pieces are there, all of the API frameworks are there. So, thank you, sir. Yes? From the VMware side, all that we require is DRS enabled and vCenter 5, vSphere 5.5 or greater. So we do support NSX today. We're in late stage beta with them, and that's more working with VMware to make sure that everything is fully compatible. But we do support NSX for a Neutron integration, which is software-defined networking within OpenStack. So we talked a little bit about the OpenStack side. It's not one control plane to rule them all if you don't have something else that you're going to rule over. And like I said, the other side of the coin is Kubernetes today. And what you'll notice from Platform9 is we're here to make your journey easy. We're helping you up that staircase to cloud enlightenment, if you will. Each framework we're going to release is going to take you farther up that food chain to consume more and more of that cloud-like infrastructure. So there are a couple things that we're working on internally that are going to continue to move that forward. So first and foremost, Kubernetes. Kubernetes is a container orchestration engine based on what Google runs inside its own data centers. So Google is a large contributor, and our engineering team sat down and took a hard look at containers as a space very, very late last year, and ultimately decided that Kubernetes is the open source framework we want to place our money on. First and foremost, it's got backing of large companies, and you've seen more and more people come out in favor of Kubernetes over the last few months. And secondly, it has a lot of the necessary requirements to truly enable a CI/CD environment, continuous integration, continuous delivery. One of the demos we like to do, and we've done at similar shows like this, is the ability to deploy Jenkins onto Kubernetes, onto an actual container, let it spin up child nodes, slave nodes as workers, and then run your entire CI/CD pipeline on Kubernetes through Kubernetes, where you can go pull your code from a repository, build an actual Docker container, upload it to your dev repository, pull it down and actually deploy it, run your automated testing on it. If it passes, you're going to automatically roll that into production and use Kubernetes internal concepts of rolling upgrades to go through and actually upgrade that that entire pod in place, that kubelet in place. So you're on our current release. So we currently support Kubernetes. We are upgrading to 1.4 in the next couple months. So with this, you're going to still get our entire 24/7 SLA. And we're actually going to break this out in the next slide, how we actually separate these pieces. But with Kubernetes, we bring it up a whole nother level. You're now multi-cloud. If you're building in containers, you can take those containers and ship them anywhere. And Platform 9 will allow you to manage that internally on virtual or bare metal, or from a virtual machine from some other environment. Or if you just want to use Platform 9 as a development space and run your production containers, say in AWS, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Platform 9 is here to help you advance that cloud journey and build those together in a single place where you have one single pane of glass to view all of that. So with that define once, deploy anywhere infrastructure, the way we do this is actually breaking it out, and we're going to leverage some of the OpenStack concepts here. First and foremost, we're going to use Keystone and the concepts of tenants and regions to define what a user has access to and what they're authorized to do in that environment. So take a role in Keystone, you're going to authenticate yourself there, and that authorization is going to give them access to a set of containers within a specific tenant, within a specific region. Secondly, what we're going to do is leverage that separation of church and state that I talked about on the OpenStack side from a Kubernetes standpoint as well. We're pulling out all of the higher level pieces, the API endpoint, the etcd, the scheduler, and the Kubernetes controller up into a cloud controller. And in a very similar fashion to how you authorize a KVM node, you're going to download a self-extracting installer, run it on your host, and it's going to check in, and you're going to give it what Platform 9 is deemed the containervisor role. You're building a hypervisor to run containers. Once that's checked in, all you have to do is define your cluster with 2 CIDRs. I want a CIDR for my containers, and I want a CIDR for my services. And Kubernetes breaks that up from a standpoint, your services are going to be things like load balancers and proxies, so you can wide scale your apps as well as proxy various ports, et cetera, and tie multiple cubes together. And then your containers are just those individual microservices that you're deploying. So once you build that cluster, you can add a node to a cluster, and I'm actually going to pull this up and show you guys in just a minute. And we're going to stitch all of those nodes together. So whether it be one node or 10, 15 nodes, we're going to stitch all of those together with the underlying networking and really give you that container and cluster built out, ready to go in a matter of minutes. So one thing to announce here on our roadmap, we're currently working through SDN, software-defined networking, in the Kubernetes space. So that's the next step in integrating the concepts of OpenStack and Kubernetes, giving you an SDN-like capability within your Kubernetes pod. Any questions there? So just a couple things to hit on, and this is more on the sales side that wanted me to throw this in the deck. But as we build this out, we're giving you the cloud-native environment inside your own data center to build out your DevOps infrastructure. You're going to have the capability to automate using standard APIs that are community supported, and they have not retired yet, with no plans really to either. They may deprecate them, but those APIs will still be available. And build out that CI/CD pipeline using whatever toolkit you like. We have had customers that have used us to break free of a VMware-like tax. Going open source is going to cut down that VMware ELA that you guys pay on a regular basis, moving to the KVM hypervisor or moving to Kubernetes. And then you can get ahead of shadow IT. You have a single place, you know where people are deploying, and you have a management oversight into that. So we have customers out there today, when I talk about DevOps, CI/CD, using a whole number of tools. And they do it for different reasons. So whether that be Jenkins, we actually use TeamCity internally, and we build Platform 9 on top of Platform 9. Ansible, Packer, We have customers today that build out Packer workflows to leverage AWS alongside Platform9. So AWS for production customer workloads, Platform9 for internal development. They create a single golden image and tie everything together with Packer. Platform9's there, it's open. We have the standard OpenStack APIs, all community supported, so anything out there that says it will support OpenStack will run on Platform9. Same on the Kubernetes front. We have the standard Kubernetes APIs available and ready for you. And really what we're bringing to the table is that 24/7 support, the managed SLAs, and the ability to really roll out in a matter of minutes, increasing your time to value. You no longer have to wait, like this gentleman said, weeks or months to deploy OpenStack, or Kubernetes could be days to weeks. We can do that for you in a matter of minutes to hours. So just as a kind of a quick touch point while I dive into the demo, you can try Platform9. We actually have a sandbox environment out there today where you can jump out, you'll get built out your own tenant, you'll have the capability to play around with some of our software-defined networking and OpenStack, build virtual machines, play with Cinder volumes, and get the OpenStack experience for a few hours. After that, we can roll out a POC working with our team, like I said, in a matter of an hour or so. We'll get on a phone call. You guys provide the infrastructure, and we'll provide the OpenStack or Kubernetes. So what I wanted to do real quick is to dive into, and let's adjust the browser settings. Whoops. So that you guys can actually see this. And that made it significantly smaller. All right. So this is the Platform9 Clarity Web UI. This is that single pane of glass, that one control plane to rule them all. We are going to deploy this with you. And like I said, in this single control plane, you have the capability right now to control OpenStack and Kubernetes. And like I said, tune in at midnight tonight to the OpenStack Summit to find out what you can control next without giving too much away. So from a standard viewpoint, I have the capability of a single federated keystone to authenticate my users. And I can use that local keystone database, or I can use SAML-based SSO, Active Directory, LDAP, whatever that may be you have in-house. And I get the full multi-region, multi-tenant capabilities. And within that, I can apply that both to OpenStack and, with the click of a button, a flip to the context of Kubernetes as well. If I have developers that are focused on one or the other, I can tie them into that individually. If I have developers that are focused across both, maybe they're working on refactoring an application from a standard infrastructure as a service stack into a container environment, I can spread them across both of those environments, and they can continue to move up that chain and really start to eliminate the hardware concept beneath them. You no longer have to worry about hardware with Platform9 from a what do we support. We're going to run on VMware. We're going to run on standard enterprise Linux or Ubuntu Linux. And the hypervisor, we're going to deploy for you outside of the VMware. So KVM with libvirt, we're going to make sure that that's on your host up and running. So just as a quick show, we'll run through the OpenStack side. And like I mentioned, we have all of these APIs available for end users right out of the box. Each region is going to get its specified endpoint, and the only thing that you'll see that stays similar across is going to be your keystone endpoint. That's because we're a single federated point of authentication for your users. You no longer have to worry about managing a user database here, a user database there. We're going to bring that all together for you. And like I said, if you use a SAML SSO provider like Okta, like OneLogin, we'll pull that information in as well. So right out of the box, I have the capability to go and manage a large number of tenants. So you can see here, I have hundreds of tenants actually, even though I, as a user, only have access to a very small number. One thing I do want to demonstrate is the concept of what it looks like when you add infrastructure. you can see on the KVM side, I have a number of hosts added here, and I have a listing of their roles. So each host doesn't have to be just one role, but can be multiple roles as well. We actually deploy everything as a hypervisor, or we recommend it. And then within that, you can have block storage, image library roles, you can have network node roles, or you can make everything a network node if you want to go to the distributed route and really increase your bandwidth. Something that we see a lot with high performance compute. And within that, you have the concepts of OpenStack images, you have the concepts of OpenStack flavors, and these are all kind of correlated to Amazon EC2 experiences as well. That's kind of how OpenStack was built out. And then the instances, which are the actual virtual machines you can build out. So just a kind of quick workflow. All of this can be scripted. All of this can be used through a cloud management platform. All of this can be done through the Platform9 web UI. We even have customers that have requested that we stand up Horizon, the standard OpenStack UI, side by side, and they're welcome to do both, or any of the above. What we tend to see is this working a lot in development shops, but also enterprise. So you have your developers that want to take advantage of the APIs and that increased speed in time to delivery. And then you have your enterprise workplaces that want to have self-service infrastructure available to their end users. You can build a virtual machine here in a matter of minutes, and I'm just going to go ahead and build a CentOS VM quickly. So I'm going to choose my image. I'm going to choose my flavor, and you will see a large amount of both of these here. And like I said, that's because we use Platform9 to build Platform9. All of our testing is done on top of Platform9, leveraging automation and DevOps concepts. We actually use TeamCity as our continuous integration engine. So I'm going to choose my network next, and then I can configure the actual name of the virtual machine. If you guys are familiar with VPC and Amazon, the concept of security groups also applies in OpenStack. What kind of traffic do I want to allow? Let's go ahead and allow all traffic to start. And if I needed to request multiple virtual machines, I can do that right here as well. We also fully support Cloud Init. If you want customization within your machine, you can go ahead and actually use Cloud Init. So I'm going to do that because our default images do not allow password authentication. So we have a sample Cloud Init script here that I'm just going to copy over and I'll explain through quick. Essentially what we're going to do is set a password, set that password to never expire. We're going to allow SSH authentication with a password. And we're going to disable EC2 metadata. And then last but not least, we're going to run a simple command to dump some text into a file. So if I go ahead and click next here, I'll get a quick summary in terms of what I'm building. I'll go ahead and create the instance. So you can see we get a nice little pop-up saying it's building. We flip over here and we can see that we're actually building out that instance right now. So while that's building real quick, I also want to show you the concept of application catalogs. This is where both developers and enterprises alike join in. And you have the capability to build out these application stacks, tie things together, whether it's WordPress, whether it's a LAMP stack. We actually have one built out for Kubernetes where all you have to do is give it a name. It's going to deploy a couple of virtual machines, tie it together as a Kubernetes cluster, and authorize it within Platform9 as a space to manage your containers. So we have a couple of pre-built apps that come with that. We have an Apache server, we have that Platform9 Kubernetes cluster, and we have a WordPress cluster. But what this gives you is the capability to deploy, let's find one of these, with a single click of a button and specifying a few key artifacts. Ours are built to pull from your repository, so what SSH key do you have added, what image, what flavor, and what network do you want to build on? And then you can build your stack. And again, this can all be done through the command line with a couple of specifications. So if we flip back to instances, we can see my virtual machine is built. From our standpoint, I actually can't contact it right now because it's in a unroutable private tenant network. I can go ahead and add that quickly add a floating IP address. so that I can access it. So let's go ahead and find one of these open floating IPs. And from there, let's double check that I am connected to the VPN. So you can see I have my floating IP address tagged here. And if I quickly open up a, well, maybe it's not going to let me, open up a command prompt, you can see that I can actually talk to that virtual machine, let alone SSH to that virtual machine. Whoops. And because we use the same floating IP addresses over and over again, you have a tendency to get actual errors. And so I'm now in that virtual machine, and if I were to cat, it looks like whoops, not in there yet. Winter Wonderland is the password that I actually set for it. So there we go. If I actually were to cat in the temp directory, the pf9 text file that we created, you can see that we were actually able to dump text there. So that's kind of a quick overview of Platform9 OpenStack. If we were to flip context, and I'm actually going to do this in a different region, and a different tenant, we can see that we have the ability to add Kubernetes as well. So within that, I can add nodes, tie them together into clusters, and deploy containers right out of the bat. So for example, I have a sample application that is actually already deployed, but we have scripted installs and scripted deinstalls to show you what that application can do. So just as a quick capability, leveraging the APIs, we're going to tear down that application. So with that, Platform9 has really developed a single control plane across two frameworks. Like I mentioned, stay tuned specifically at midnight tonight to find out what's next. And then if you continue to watch Platform9, what our dedication is to make private cloud infrastructure easy. And we're going to do that by providing you the leading open source framework of the latest cloud technologies. So we started at that infrastructure as a service level with OpenStack, moved up to a platform-like layer with Kubernetes. So if you continue tracing that journey, you'll get an idea of where Platform9 is starting to go. So with that, you can see it's just finishing its tear down and waiting for a few of the actual nodes, the kubelets, to die. Once that's done, we'll get a nice success message. And if we were to refresh this page, we'll see that we actually tore that application down. So I'm going to open it up to any questions from the room for now, and then I'll go ahead and wrap up. Any questions? All right. If you're interested, stop by and see us at booth 6. We can dive deeper into a couple of these things. Feel free to dive out there and try out our sandbox environment, platform9.com/sandbox. You get 4 free hours just to experience OpenStack today. And if you have any questions, my name is Jeremy Brooks, and I also have some cards up here if you're interested. So thanks everyone for joining. Hopefully you guys got an idea of how we can tie multiple cloud infrastructures together to give you a single control plane to run everything with 24/7 managed support, SLAs, and upgrades all out of the box.